Good day to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here. Monday now, the 18th day of March 2024. Boy, is it good to be back for about the last 10 days or so. I guess it's been 13 days since I've done an update. I got sick. Nothing serious, but it sapped me. It took my voice away, this upper respiratory deal. Very, very annoying. Lots of coughing. Tested for all the stuff. Everything was negative. Sore throat from you-know-where. It was just like, And then it just made me where I couldn't do anything work-related in terms of multimedia stuff. Believe me, I've been working on projects in the background. Haven't been completely idle. But man, when you lose your voice and you're in social media, broadcast, whatever, it's a real pain in the butt. So it's good to be back. Got a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff has happened over the last couple of weeks. We need to address that and see where we are on things, all right? So thanks for waiting for me. I'm back. It's good to be here. Let's get started. As the thumbnail shows, we're headed for La Nina, folks, and that's going to have an impact on the upcoming hurricane season. So I figured very fitting to start with Ben Knoll and this tweet that he put out almost a week ago now, right? A whole bunch of new seasonal climate data just dropped. Copernicus Day, all kinds of stuff for, like he says, a monthly holiday for weather nerds around the world. I love his graphics. Boy, if I had the coding, well, I don't need it because I got Ben. Why do I have to do everything when I've got all these wonderful people that can develop stuff? We share stuff, we collaborate. What a neat little world we have here on social media. And he's all the way over there in New Zealand. Anyway, so what he's talking about is all this new data that's come out. So let's just unpack it one particular part of his thread at a time. Despite a developing La Nina in the equatorial Pacific, above average summer temperatures are expected in much of the northern hemisphere. So on one hand, it's going to be hot. So your AC is going to really need to be looked at. You're going to need to make sure that's working. We're going to have some heat-related issues in the United States and elsewhere. And that will also lead to, eventually, a pretty big uptick in hurricane activity, it does look like. And so we're losing the El Nino, headed towards La Nina. And you look at this map here that he's showing, we have basically everything is above normal. That's what the color code shows. Let's drop me out, and we'll enlarge this graphic here. Except, I mean, the La Nina really sticks out there like a sore thumb in the equatorial Pacific. But everything else, at least through August, this runs June through August. What is this, by the way? This is the Euro and the UK Met Super Blend that Ben has been doing for several years. I remember 4 years ago, during the first stages of everybody being locked up, not allowed to go anywhere because of the pandemic, it's all we kind of looked at was hurricane stuff, and Ben was very helpful. We did a couple of YouTube lives, and we looked at this kind of stuff. It really reminds me of 2020, and a lot of us are talking about that, and everything about this year seems to be weird like 2020. It's like a different version. I don't like it. You know that Michael Scott meme where he's like, don't like it, not one little bit or whatever. That's what that reminds me of, 2020. Anyway, the other part of this, so above normal temperatures, but then the June through August rainfall is looking abundant over the tropical Atlantic. And when the climate models start seeing this, that is a big hint. And we saw this again back in 2020. And that's important because they got it right, the models, that early. It was March and April. I remember we were looking at this stuff, and then it was pretty much a done deal. It was inevitable, as the saying goes, and we know what happened in 2020. 30 named storms, pretty destructive hurricane season that gave us all kinds of mayhem, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. But there's other parts of the world that are affected by this, parts of Asia. India and Central Africa are looking wet as well. And the one thing that really sticks out to me, when he says Central Africa, that's showing up in the climate models as being wet. That's a generator of tropical wave energy, especially in the Ethiopian highlands. There's a lot of research going on about how tropical waves start. Those get into the Atlantic, and they seed the Atlantic for potential hurricanes down the road. So a lot of different things are pointing, as we have seen over the last few weeks and months now, towards a very active hurricane season. Different patterns are starting to really set up and solidify, and that really hasn't changed. And if anything, they are anchoring even stronger, these patterns. And we're getting close now, so that by the time we get to April, we're going to be only talking about 60 days away, 2 months to get ready. And in April, we are really going to start talking more and more about what can we do about it. I think that is very important, not just putting out the bad news, so to speak, but what can we do about it? What about this word mitigation? What can we do if we're on a budget? What can we do if we're very wealthy to protect that wealth? And anything in between. We won't solve all the problems, but I think it's important to put this out, and then somebody that studies hurricanes like I do and have done so for such a long time in person, I've seen a few things, and I think I can be of some help to give some advice on what do we do with all of this. I certainly have been talking to my family about it, and you guys are kind of an extended part of my family, so we'll talk about it together. So lots of data coming out and really emphasizing the onset of La Nina and the exit of El Nino. Now this is an interesting part of his thread here. From an atmospheric perspective, widespread rising motion is signaled across the Atlantic and Africa heading into summer. That other thread also mentioned that. And then this is where it comes in. This is concerning, particularly because of how similar it is, and there's that year again, to 2020, which went on to become the most active hurricane season on record in terms of named storms. Luckily, the ACE, the accumulated cyclone energy, was not terribly off, like crazy. We've had busier years. ACE, go away, Creative Cloud, we're good. ACE is the quality, right? We've had a big quantity of storms. And look, ACE is important, but, people in Lake Charles and Calcasieu Parish, elsewhere, Louisiana, basically in 2020, most of the ACE, in terms of impact, happened there. So you can have a low ACE season and a lot of impact. It's all scientific. ACE is really about the quality of the storms, how strong they are, how long they last. And some of the stuff we're seeing suggests possibly that the one thing about 2020 is we had a lot of short-lived storms. They got in the Gulf. They were 2 or 3 days long, but they were very strong right up at landfall. A lot of rapidly intensifying systems. This year, we might see more of a blend of 2017 and 2020, long track and intense with a big upward motion pattern. We don't know for sure, but some of the guidance is at least starting to suggest that. And so that gives us pause that it's kind of like 2020 plus. That's the way I look at it. So we really got to start taking this very seriously and start talking about what to do about it. And I'm going to allude, and address that a little bit more before we end today's update, because there's some conferences coming up where that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to really be talking about it in the conference world. All right? So good stuff here from Ben Knoll. If you're not following him, you should. He's down in New Zealand, but he does a lot of stuff, snow stuff for Hudson Valley. Very popular up there. But these graphics and his way of communicating stuff is tremendous, and we appreciate it quite a lot. All right? So again, 2020, March 18th, everybody was getting ready to just shut it all down for a few weeks, right? In some cases, a few months. This is what it looked like. I did this a couple weeks ago, I know, but I'm just going to refresh your memory. 4 years ago, ended up 30 named storms. This is what it looks like today. I just cannot get over this. The remarkable difference, if you just pay attention to right here, 4 years ago, and that gave us 30 named storms. What in the world is that going to do? And then where the warmth relative to average is concentrated is very alarming. It is. People are paying attention to this that know what they are looking at. And we do. A lot of us. And that is not a good sign. All right? Your upward motion would get focused all through here. Lower surface pressures. The convergence where everything just comes together. And we have a blockbuster hurricane season. And then we look at stuff like the Gulf of Mexico. It's finally above normal now. It's been kind of, some areas below normal, but most of the Gulf above average now, normal, average, whatever you want to call it. And then the Caribbean, also above average. But then the main development region up here off the Canary Islands, the Canary Current, well above average. And then the big key, look at the subtropics, colder than average, so they're not competing with the upward motion down here. That is a telltale, it's hard to say that, a telltale sign if I ever saw one. And then we've got the La Nina trying to start, it's making the cracks there in the El Nino, and it's coming. And we can see that here on the subsurface animation of the equatorial Pacific, all that El Nino stuff going away as the cold subsurface starts to make its presence known, and it's just going to reinforce itself. The trade winds are going to crank up in the Pacific, and the conveyor belt of cold water upwelling spreading across the Pacific will continue through the year, and we will be in a La Nina sooner rather than later. And we can see that from this perspective. We can look at the SOI, which is a measurement of pressure, and that is all headed in the direction of La Nina. Everything's up, up, up. We're at 1.38 for the last 30 days, so we are no longer in El Nino territory on these two metrics, the 30-day or the 90-day average. Typically -7 and lower is El Nino, the atmosphere-ocean coupled, -7 and lower. We're now in the positive territory on the 30-day, and we're making progress on the 90-day, and it's just like I said, it's inevitable. We're headed towards a La Nina. Now, nothing's guaranteed, of course, but this is pretty darn close to it. This is the graphic I used for today's thumbnail, at least part of it. Leaving El Nino, neutral soon, and then La Nina after that. I don't know what else we can do. The evidence is there. We need to be ready for it. So one last look at what this means. Just look at this graphic and understand when you see all of that anomalous warmth concentrated in the deep tropics. And then you've got the subtropics up here, at least on March 18th. Now, what will this look like August 18th? Will it change and everything's warm and we get sort of a 2010 type situation? A lot of named storms starting late in August for months after that. It's hard to say. I mean, the climate models are suggesting that we have a lot of activity that basically heads towards the western parts of the basin over here. Not so much like 2010, but when you see this signature here, and again, it is March and things can change, but that in and of itself is a look of a very active season, because the heat, the upward motion, is focused down in the tropics here, with this not competing as much. And then there's your beginnings of the La Nina starting to happen. Certainly have chiseled away the positive anomalies, the El Nino on its way out. And then again, look at the Gulf of Mexico here, warmer than average pretty much everywhere, and this will have implications mainly for the upcoming and already started severe weather season through this area, the deep south. I mean, look at Indiana and Ohio. They're not in the deep south, and they've had more tornadoes in Ohio than anywhere else so far. And the Gulf being warmer, you're going to get these lows that come down, and you're going to pump that moisture in. Big fat ridge will set up over the Atlantic, the return flow, and this will be your battleground in here over the coming weeks. Several people have been talking about this. Eric Webb, John Hominick, and others focusing on the severe weather sector. It's going to be a little bit of a ramping down lately, which is good. I'll show you that in a minute. But then as we get into early to mid-April and beyond, it looks like, at least from their perspectives, I'm learning more about that, and I'll show you, kind of remind you again, we're going to be doing some stuff in severe weather land. I think we're going to have a robust severe weather season, and that warming Gulf of Mexico is going to help to aid that, because you've got to have the moisture. All right? You can have a dry atmosphere, and it's stable. You got to have that moisture in there. Moisture is important for hurricanes. We know about that. It's also important, obviously, to get severe weather going. And anytime I see that warm Gulf of Mexico relative to average there, and these are not like just barely warmer than average. Some of these anomalies in here, if you look at the chart, 1 to 2 degrees and plus Celsius above the long-term average. And it's the entirety of the Gulf of Mexico now. And that's going to play a big role in the meat of severe weather season, mid-April through probably mid-June. So buckle up, get ready for that. At least, though, the next several days, nothing too widespread or nothing too concerning. As you can see here from the Storm Prediction Center, this is today, this is tomorrow, this is Wednesday. Some of this might get upgraded to slight by the time we get there, but the 4 through 8 day outlook, the 4th through the 8th days, not too bad just yet. I think we're going to have actually a big winter storm coming to this part of the country, and but no severe weather. The probabilities are too low, as it clearly says here. So what's happening over the next several weeks? So I thought I'd talk about this with you. Now that I'm getting better and I've got my energy back in my voice, it's conference time. I will be presenting at the National Hurricane Conference on the last day at a luncheon. That's the 28th, Thursday the 28th in Orlando. Dr. Phil Klotzbach and myself will have about 30 minutes each at the luncheon on the last day of the conference. And he'll talk a little bit about, of course, last year's forecast and a little bit of a preview of what's coming up for this year. And then I am going to go over, and it's hard to believe this, 20 years now of that right there. The remote camera project started in 2004. 20 years ago, we sat in that Chevy Tahoe of ours during Hurricane Charlie and got the you-know-what scared out of us. And hey, I'll be the first to admit it. It was very frightening, sitting in an SUV in a Category 4 eye wall. What a great idea that was. And it certainly made me see the light. I'm like, all right, we got to come up with something better. And now we do have something better. But what have the challenges been? And what do we do with it going forward? How do we keep pushing the technology forward? And the ever-elusive meteorological data. While the visuals from those cameras have been sort of the headliner, lots of views, lots of attention, lots of television coverage. I get it, because that's what, sorry, microphone, that's what people want to see. But parallel to all of that, less in the limelight, we've also been trying to collect meteorological data. That is much harder to do. And I'm going to talk about that. I think it's very important to talk about success and failure and challenges that you have in your project, whatever it may be, have encountered along the way on whatever journey you're on. And so that's what I'm going to present. 30 minutes. Good luck with that, right? Actually, what I do is I make a video, and it's kind of like a fake PowerPoint, like everything's in the video, and there's transitions and graphics and motion and everything, and it'll be 25 minutes, and then I can't run long. I just narrate the video, and they just play the video, and it works. It's a pretty good technique. I like it. And then we have time for questions and answers, and I don't run long. So that's coming up March 25th through the 28th. So a week from today, I'll be getting ready to head down to Florida. We got some meetings with all kinds of people on the back-end team, getting ready for hurricane season, getting ready for severe weather season. Then it's on to the National Tropical Weather Conference, geared more towards broadcast meteorologists and emergency managers, of course, but a lot of broadcast meteorologists go to this. It is a really good time down there, sharing information, sharing all kinds of ideas, networking, you name it. And I just love this conference. It's fantastic. In a neat part of the country, South Padre Island. No Starship launches during that. Unfortunately, that would be cool to see, but oh well. Anyway, that's coming up April 2nd through the 4th. And on the 4th, Dr. Phil Klotzbach will release the first forecast for the 2024 season with numbers, like the quantitative, right? Everybody likes the numbers. That'll happen on the 4th. I'll be here presenting on a couple of different panels, and I'm looking forward to being there with a lot of my colleagues. And then it's eclipse time, April 8th. 3 weeks from today? Something like that? Is that right? I think it is. Wow. Yeah, it's about 21 days away or something like that. We're getting close. Eclipse time, and I tell you what, it better be sunny all through here, but mostly right here. I'll be selfish. Just have the sunshine there, and I'll be happy. I got pretty much my whole family going, and several friends and colleagues too, dragging them out there. There's going to be millions of people along the path of totality. I'm not kidding. Already seeing people, different counties talking about states of emergency, gas supplies, cellular networks, road closures, hotels, Airbnbs, you name it. We're all set. We're ready to go. Planned ahead more than a year ago. I'll be out near San Antonio. That is going to be exciting. But then, when that wraps up, we got the 2 conferences, and then the eclipse, and then it's hail time. And I'm going to be talking about this more and more as we get closer. I had a meeting the other day with the fabricator industrial company, whatever you want to call it. They're called Edwards Incorporated here in Wilmington. And let me just say, when we're done transforming our Tacoma, and it's ours, it's not just mine, it's crowdfunded. That Tacoma was crowdfunded. We're going to transform it into a hail research laboratory. I dare say unlike anything that's ever been unleashed. All right? Because hail is very interesting. It is destructive. It's not too deadly. I talked about this on my reveal update, the last one I did, right? As long as you stay out of it, it won't kill you. It's not going to go through your roof enough to kill you. I mean, sometimes they go through roofs, but I'm just saying, like, if you avoid the hail, you can survive, right? But there's so many aspects to it that I think are very fascinating. So we call it the Hail Project. It'll be a multi-year endeavor to just learn and do experiments and study hail using cameras and slow-mo and putting everyday objects out in these hailstorms. Some of it very scientific, some of it very fun and just curious. Hey, what happens if we put X, Y, or Z in a gorilla hailstorm? Well, let's find out. And then in the process, we learn something. Science doesn't always have to be a black and white straight line of this is how you do it. There's some gray areas in there, and we're going to learn a lot. Absolutely. What I want to do is always contribute to the science as best I can. But with this, because it's not a deadly phenomenon, again, as long as people stay out of it, we can have a little bit more fun with it. The hurricane stuff, 100% serious, because that's my career. The Hail Project, we're going to have some fun. And we're going to learn at the same time. And I can't wait to show you. We'll talk more and more about it as we get closer. All right? All right. So, HurricaneTrack Insider, why did I bring that up? Because we got Patreon. You want to watch a lot of what we do? You want to help fund it? Become an investor? We need it, that's for sure. This is an expensive endeavor that old Mark is embarking on. You can join up. $4, $10, $25 or more. Whatever fits your needs. And the good thing is you can join Patreon for free and then join one of the tiers where you help fund what we do whenever you want to. I like that flexibility because you have access to the Insider site, our Discord, our podcast, the live cams, the interactive map right there. That's what this is. And you go over here, you can turn on different layers. It's pretty darn cool. These are our permanent cams. None of them are in the path of totality. What are the odds of that? I'll just have to go there. But anyway, we're on Patreon. If you want to help support what we do, we would love to have you. All right? And, of course, Twitter. I know it's called something else, but I'm going to always call it Twitter. And YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. You know what they say. And help us grow what we do, and you can become part of it. And what an amazing time we're going to have over the next few months. We're going to learn stuff. We're going to teach. We're going to observe. We're going to research. And we're all going to do it together. The power of social media and weather. All the negativity in the world, forget that. Let's have some fun with this. At the same time, be safe, be informed, and be ready for whatever comes our way. All right? All right. As I said, good to be back. I'm feeling a lot better. 97% there, I guess. Next week I'll be at 110. That's a good goal, right? Until then, you guys have a good rest of your week ahead. I will leave you with plenty here to talk about and think about. And then I'll see you again a week from today. I'll cut my video. And then Tuesday, it's time to hit the road and go to Orlando. And we got to get started on a lot of important stuff over the coming weeks. From all of us at Hurricane Track, I am, of course, Mark Sudduth. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again next Monday.